What's going on, everybody? Just want to let you know our sponsors going forward for our future episodes. We are sponsored by Red Clover Coffee. So if you go to redclovercoffee.com and type in code IWP at checkout, you'll save 10% site-wide. Also, we are sponsored by Performance Supplements. So if you go over to performancesup with 2ps.com and type in code IWP at checkout, you'll save 15% site-wide. And our third sponsor is we are sponsored by Crunch Fitness up here in Northern California. Thank you, guys. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming back. This episode, you can call it part 4 if you want to. We are here again with Eli, that is back and forth over in Ukraine, volunteering, helping out, being on the front lines, seeing a whole lot more than what other people have. And again, no propaganda. He is going to send over some pictures, and maybe I can clip some videos if it's not going to be too long in here for you guys. But we're going to jump right into this one, and this episode is going to be him talking about the front lines over there, him volunteering, what he sees, you know, what's going on a daily basis. Because before we were talking about kind of the history between Ukraine and Russia, what's going on. So again, Eli, thank you for coming back again for part 4, man. So let's get right into it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. So I guess I'll go off. Start off with talking about so what am I doing there? What are many other Americans and other people from Europe doing there? There's a lot of people from Germany sending a lot of aid and help. So as we know, and I don't like to sugarcoat anything. So we know that, you know, whenever we give out doesn't matter what country it is, especially with Ukraine and Russia and you know, these Eastern European countries where there's a lot of corruption, everybody's kind of thinking for themselves. The money doesn't always get to where it's supposed to get to. The aid doesn't get to where it's supposed to get to. That's just how it is. If you look at any situation that any government has ever went and tried to, you know, send aid to another country when they are having issues, it never really gets there. So there's a lot of Christian organizations that have really stepped up their game and began to help out on the front lines, not just Christian or other organizations, people, just regular everyday people getting together and doing whatever they can to help out. So there's a bit of a moral issue for some people to go out, join the battlefield, where they're not willing to go out and kill somebody, but they're willing to go and help. They're willing to do whatever it takes to help, and they're willing to risk their lives to go and help these people. So one thing is, I'm pretty sure you've heard of there's like this analogy where in war, out of 100 men, 90 are not even supposed to be there. 9 are soldiers, and then 1 is an actual true warrior. And that's exactly how it really is. You know, there's a lot of people out there, they don't need to be there. They shouldn't be there to start off with. And unfortunately, they get killed. The other 10, you know, they're actually true soldiers and warriors or whatnot. So on the subject of the aid and the help that people are sending out there, for example, there's a village not far from Kryvyi Rih. It's on the east. It's on the east side of Ukraine. It's not far from Zaporizhia. There's this one village that was completely bombed. Like it's literally all destroyed. And a group of people, they decided to help rebuild it. And the last time I heard, it was about 2 weeks ago, there was a crew of 50 Americans that went down there to help rebuild these homes. They just help with putting on a new roof. You know, people are going back to their village because they have nowhere else to go. You can't forever live in, you know, some dormitory in Kiev or you know, somewhere on the west side of Ukraine. So they're going back because they have no other place to go to. It's either you live on the street or you go back to whatever's left of your home. So that's one aspect of the help that's going over, that's being, the things that are being done there. So they'll be right now, like this village is there. It's crazy. Again, I'll try to send pictures tonight to you with all this stuff. And usually, basically, what happens is this: like we're not sending money over there. We buy the supplies, and then the supplies end up to the places they need to be. And there's a lot of eyes on these projects that are going on. There's a lot of, you know, people constantly being updated on what's going on with it. So that's one of the first lines of help that's going on there. The second line of help that's going on is, so after wherever there's the hot front is going on, stores are not getting enough product, right? And if they are getting product, there's the people are not working, they can't afford to go to the store and buy this stuff. So there's a massive amount, like and I've glory to God, but I was able to be part of bringing supplies over there. Basically get like a Sprinter van loaded up with supplies. You go down there and you just basically hand it out. People know, people tell one another, hey, there's people
Right.
coming with supplies, and they'll all line up to get food or just grain and whatnot. So that's another line of help that's being administered over there. And every day, like, it's not like you go up there every single day, but you go to one area one day, another area the second day, and whatnot. And it helps a lot because they're cut off from basically supplies getting into the city, right? So what are you going to do? There's nobody around. You have no money and you're poor as it is. Your only reliance is to pray to God that somebody shows up with something, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. I know there's we're getting a lot of Amazon, those Amazon bins that you can buy with like almost anything. They can be anything from
Super random crates and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times we'll get like we'll have people here in America, they'll get like crates of energy drinks or crates of whatever. The soldiers love the energy drinks because they keeps them wired, for a week. So anyways, that's another thing. Like we're not just helping out people that are living there in the region. We're actually helping out the soldiers that are actually on the front line too. So there's a lot of how it works is basically, you have a friend that's in the village or in the city that is part of a battalion or is the head of the battalion or whatever. And he's like, hey, you know what? We're running low on socks. It's like, you can't be doing your socks every day on the battlefield.
Right.
So the best thing to do is, right, to get a new pair of socks, right? So they'll send like, a couple boxes of socks for the guys or underwear or whatever it is. And it helps out quite a bit. And I know that another thing is, I don't know, I can't remember if I sent it to you, but like sometimes after a firefight, someone will lose a tooth or get hit in the face or something like that. So one of my own friends, that we went out to, I forget what the village is called already. There's so many, it's just a blur because there's so many of them.
So I have a question on those villages, and not to cut your train of thought off, but
yeah, no problem.
So with the villages that are like getting destroyed and bombarded and the people, like you said earlier, maybe 4 minutes ago, like people trying to go like back to their villages because nowhere else to live, they want to go back. So are those like cities and like regions or areas, like are any of those taken over by the Russians, or is it just like, hey, they got bombed and then Russians never really like went in and tried to move and take it over? Like how are they able to go back there without worry of getting hit again or like Russians in the area per se?
Okay, so basically in this in particular village, there was a huge fight. Probably it carried on for like a month or two, from my recollection, and it went into the Russian hands, then went back to Ukrainian hands, Russian hands, Ukrainian, back and forth, back and forth. They're hitting each other with mortars. They're hitting houses. Soldiers are in the houses from both sides, and that's how the village pretty much got destroyed, right? And then eventually the Ukrainians took over it. They pushed them out. So now the Russians are on the other side of the Dnipro River.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going back there. One, they know that the Russians are already gone. And a little side note. So the people that are living in these regions that are currently under occupation by the Russian military,
Mm-hmm.
the Russian military does not let the people living there cross into Ukraine, but they will let them cross into Russia, and they give them a passport the same day. Reason being is that they play this PR stunt saying, well, look, today 200 more people living in Ukraine have decided to come join Russia, and they have gotten Russian passports. See, look how good we are. We're such fantastic. We're so great. We're fantastic. They don't want to go to Ukraine. They want to come to Russia. But in reality is they're not letting them cross into Ukraine at all because they don't want them to leave. Because it goes back to one of the first episode that I was telling you. It's like, if you claim that your country is so great and such a fantastic place to live, and all of a sudden you have thousands and thousands of people wanting to leave, well, that makes you look bad. So it's the game, the whole entire mentality hasn't changed. The doctrine hasn't changed. It's still the same. It just goes the same thing with North Korea. Mm-hmm. If you try to escape North Korea, well, guess what? You and your family are going to face the firing squad. Yeah, exactly. So this is nothing. I'm not giving you some brand new information. I'm just telling you that it's nothing there, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Dang,
yeah, and I was just going to mention one more thing. So I got friends that live in Donetsk, and they were telling me that, hey, like there's a lot of people that are getting money from the Russian government. If you go, like, it's like this, how Instagram gives you suggestions, right? Mm-hmm. So basically the same thing with there. It's like the algorithm puts out all this information, like, oh, all these people are getting money for their destroyed homes. But in reality, out of 1 million people, they'll do like 10,000. I don't know if I mentioned this before. And it looks like a lot of people are getting it, but in reality, it's just a PR stunt, because they can't afford to pay for for all the damages, right? Anyway, going on to if you have another question, just
it was I had somebody comment, one of the followers, and this was probably over. Gosh, it must have been over a month ago. But anyways, they commented and said that their family is in Ukraine and lives in Ukraine, and mentioned that they weren't getting any kind of aid that was supposedly put out on the news. Over here in the United States, they were saying that, I don't know if it was the White House, but somebody was saying that the Ukrainians were getting a certain amount per household, and the lady said that wasn't even true. She said, my mom and dad still live out there. She's like, they haven't received a penny, and she was just like, so I don't know why I don't know why they're announcing that these Ukrainians are getting money, and I think she was trying to touch base on the whole like Maui fire, because apparently like it was like $700 per household, not per person. And then she said that in Ukraine they're telling everybody that they're getting this money and they're not receiving a single penny from it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is going to get a little political here.
Hey man, it's a free podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, yeah, she's absolutely right. There are a lot of people, like, it's just all smoke and mirrors, right? Okay. So the European Union, from my understanding, from an acquaintance of mine in Ukraine, basically Ukraine needs money to start rebuilding or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of giving Ukraine a lump sum of money, the Europeans are not stupid. They're not going to give Ukraine, $100 billion to rebuild their country when they know all that money will eventually get into the wrong hands, into people's pockets. And they've conveyed that message to Kiev. They've conveyed that message to the Ukrainian government. They basically said, hey, listen, guys, we know that money is not going to go where it's supposed to. So what we're going to do is we're going to oversee the projects province by province, territory by territory in Ukraine, to make sure this money will go to the correct places. Now,
interesting.
The Ukrainians are also very clever. They're not stupid. These guys have been playing this political game for years. And some of them genuinely want Ukraine, the Ukrainians, they want to help and whatnot. And a lot of them are out there, hey, you have one life to live. Why not live your best life? Screw whoever you can, take whatever you can. It's a free-for-all, right? So what they figured is like this. Every province or every territory in Ukraine, all right, every region in Ukraine, there are some that are one party, there are some that are another party. Well, if you consolidate all of the people, if you consolidate all of the mayors of every major city in Ukraine, and you make sure that you have all your own people working there, well, guess what? Then you can take all the money that you want, because you control all of those mayors, all of those regions as it is. But right now, as there's a lot of, you're not, obviously this is Ukrainian politics. Right now, there's a huge battle between a lot of these mayors and a lot of these politicians all over Ukraine that are not under a certain party, you know? And I'm not a fan of, I don't love Zelensky. I don't love whoever is the next guy or the last guy. I really don't care. For me, it's basically, we all want to live a decent life, be able to go to work, make money, and, you know, feed our families and go to the beach. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So right now, what some of these guys are doing, because you have to understand, Zelensky is a face, but he has power, right? Because he's the guy that is going to the European Union asking for F-16s. He's the guy that's asking for weapons. He is the face. I don't know where his heart really truly stands, but I do believe this guy truly understands that if he doesn't do the best he possibly can, for example, if he decided to flee last year, someone would have killed him eventually.
Dude, 100%. Yeah.
It's just because he basically screwed the entire country. Eventually, someone would kill him, and that's just the way it is. So he knew he had nowhere to run to, and he's like, well, might as well engage in this war and die a glorious death, right? And because he knew he had money, he could have escaped to Israel. He could have been like, well, I got a place in Israel, my family's in Israel, bounce, goodbye. He could have go to wherever, right? But he knew that if he leaves, he's gonna look like a fool, and eventually someone somewhere is gonna whack him. That's a fact. So he's just playing.
Oh, kind of cut out for a second.
Hello?
Yep, I can hear you. Go ahead. It just cut out for a second. You're good.
Okay. So as far as the consolidation of power is concerned, that's exactly what's currently happening in the background in Ukraine. And sure, it's a genius move, but will it actually work? I personally hope the European Union is going to be very stringent and very strict about what's going on, how the money's being spent, because, like, if you think about it, in all reality, to everybody listening, it's like your life will not change much after, you know, you make about 10 to, basically they say after 250,000, your life doesn't change much. Well, as soon as you get to like 5 to 10 million, well, you can afford to charter a jet. Great, that's fantastic. But what else are you gonna do? You know, like how much more money do you really need?
Probably causes more problems.
Well, yeah, you have people trying to sue you. You have people trying to get a piece of your pie. I'm not saying anything bad about people being well off, but as long as you're doing something with them, investing in your own country, building a factory. There's one individual in Ukraine, a politician. She basically stole a lot of money from the country, but she ended up building a couple factories in Ukraine that are currently employing people, and they manufacture ceramic tile, porcelain tile, toilets, sinks, and stuff like that. So hey, at least she stole all this money and she did something with it, right? Which I know I'm playing devil's advocate, like I'm not saying that you should be stealing, but at least she's doing something, right? That's the difference. Versus people that are just hoarding whatever they can, and they're literally doing, wow, you bought a Rolex, congratulations. You know, that is not impressive.
Yeah.
So anyways, but I hope I conveyed my thoughts well. So anyways, going back to the houses and all these regions. So right now there's a lot of people that are coming down. They're helping fix things. They're helping do whatever they can. Because, you know, like they know help is not going to come for a long time, and when it comes, it's going to be quite a few years.
Yeah, it's what have you noticed, like talking to the locals? You know, I could already convey in my head of like, you know, how they feel or what their thought process, but like with you being there like with the team and dropping off supplies and seeing the front lines and essentially the battlefield, you know, probably mortar shells going off to the side of you guys, wherever you guys are located. You know, how do the locals like really feel about like what's going on? Are they 100% saying that like, you know, with the help of NATO or you know, United States, that they're going to be able to really deter Russia? Or do they feel that Russia will eventually, you know, do something? I'm not going to allude to anything, but do they really feel that Russia could win this? Like, what have you noticed from talking to the locals?
Well, for one, like I mentioned in I think it was the second podcast. For one, everybody, when I was in Zaporizhia and I was in Nikolaev, everybody said the one thing everybody was saying is like, we know that Russia will not win, and when they do finally see that they're going to lose, they all said Russia's going to try to cause as much damage as possible on their way out. And if you know the story of Napoleon trying to take over Russia, one thing that they did was basically their tactic was destroy everything before anybody even gets there. So when Napoleon got to Moscow, it was empty. There's nothing there. All the wells were, and basically he failed miserably.
Yeah, didn't he forget, or he like supposedly he was supposed to invade on a certain night, but then decided to wait because he was with a lady, and they were saying like, hey, they're not going to expect it, we got to go in tonight. And he's like, oh, we'll do it tomorrow. And then it ended up getting like negative 20 degrees, and his troops died or something like that. Like they weren't able to actually go in because the winter.
Yeah, so basically Napoleon lost most of his army due to two things. One, the conditions of the terrain. It was very muddy. He thought he'd go in and he'd be done in 3 months.
Right.
But by the time he got to Moscow, he lost so much men, because another thing they would do is they would just find where the French were, attack them, kill a couple of guys, not many, like 5-6 people, and then disappear, and then they would be nowhere to be found. And then a week later or 2 weeks later, the same thing would happen. So it was mostly the terrain and the weather that got Napoleon. I don't know about
saving Russia too, with all that weather out there. No one can really combat that frozen tundra stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, like they weren't expecting to be there for that long, right? So that was basically Napoleon's biggest miscalculation. He was a brilliant man, right? So, but yeah, a lot of them are. And another thing, a lot of people are saying is like, we know for a fact if America wanted us to win this war, or if the West, I'm not going to say America, I already said America, but if they wanted us to win this war would have been over within a month. And
see, I'm on the same page, man, because there's a reason why they're elongating this. Like, I really feel that. There's some stuff that I'll tell you offline. Because I have to, I think like for legal reasons, I need to talk to like a PR person, whatever, over here at the airbase. Yeah. But I'll tell you some stuff offline as to why I think this is the way it's going. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry, I'm trying to get you off thought, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, see, with the amount of such little, so Ukraine was in the process of complete demilitarization for the past like 35 years.
Jeez.
But the past since of 2014 and since the past year, the ingenuity and they basically did whatever they could with what they had, and how much they were able to keep the Russians back just showed like, oh my goodness, Russia is not as powerful as they claim to be. Right. And another thing is, so in Belarus, right on the border with Ukraine, there is a huge oil refinery. And when the Belarusians were letting the Russians attack Ukraine from Belarusia, the Ukrainians basically say, it's kind of funny because Ukraine is buying oil or gas from petrol from Belarusia. And the funny part is that the Ukrainians are like, hey, listen, if you're going to continue letting the Russians bomb us from your territory, we're just going to bomb the crap out of your oil refinery. And they're like, okay. So they stopped, and they're still selling them petrol, right? So, but a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of people I speak with, they all say like, this war could have been over within like 3 months. Like everybody is shocked at how disorganized the Russian military really is. Like, it's not as powerful as people thought. And China's watching this. They're like, hey, 100%. Like maybe we should take Manchuria back, and the Japanese are watching. They're like, well, maybe we should take our islands back, and I mean, the only thing that people are scared of is that Russia has nuclear weapons. That's it. You know,
Yeah.
and alluding back to your question about we're talking about Chernobyl. I mean, that's one thing the Russians are kind of a little sketched out about. Hey, what if Ukrainians decide to build a dirty nuke? You know, so all of those things combined, you know, and we're watching right now, like the dissolve of the Russian Empire. Whether people want to believe this or not, Russia will dissolve. It will dissolve. You cannot. You have the Chechens, you have the Georgians, you have Belarusians, the Kazakhs, you have Mongols, you have all of these little countries engulfing all around Russia, and nobody can play nice with them. The Russians have not been playing nice with these people, and they're sick and tired of being told how to live and where to walk and where not to walk. I'm sure a lot of people know that Kazakhstan is renting out a huge piece of land to the Russian space program, and the Russian government has a lot of power over what the Kazakhstan government can do and what they cannot do. And it's come to a point where the Kazakh nation, they're tired of being told how to live in their own country.
Yeah.
You know, the Georgians right now, there's 30% of the Georgian. If you go look at a map of Georgia, how big it is, by Armenia, by Azerbaijan, by Chechnya, there. Go look at how big that country is, and yet Russia invaded 30% of it for what? Well, what have you forgotten in Georgia? What do you want? You want shawarma? What do you want?
What do they supply them? Nothing.
Well, they don't really supply them anything. I think Georgia's biggest money maker is tourism. You know, same thing with Armenia and Azerbaijan. If you look at the map, they really, you already have access to the Caspian Sea. You already have access to the Black Sea. You know, and if you take over Ukraine, okay, wow, now you have more access to the Black Sea. You're a superpower. What do you care? You have hypersonic missiles.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it just the logic doesn't make any sense. You know, you get more bees with honey, and right now, and the past 20 years, they haven't been giving anybody honey but problems, right? So
right. So one last question before we wrap up right here. Another question just on your thoughts, your opinions, your assumptions. So from the post that I did today is 9/16 for everybody. So what is your thoughts on the White House essentially threatening North Korea, saying that if you decide to give aid or more aid to Russia, and they're talking about like long range missiles or what, a cluster, you know, whatever the case may be, and the White House was saying that it'll be a bad idea for North Korea, and this is not out of their words, this is out of my words, in my opinion. They're essentially saying or alluding to the fact that they will retaliate in some form of fashion. Do you think that's actually going to happen? Do you think North Korea is going to do that? Because North Korea they've been kind of like water is wet. Like they just act like they're going to do something, nothing ever falls through. Their missiles fail, all sorts. ICBMs don't work, you know. So do you think that they'll actually step up to help Russia more than supposedly what they have been, or no?
The only thing that North Korea can really do is get their people to help manufacture parts for that those kamikaze drones. That's the only thing they can really do, and that just shows you what kind of position Russia is in, that they are begging North Korea, one of the poorest countries in the world, to help them make missiles. That's what kind of dire situation they're in, and that should speak very loudly. You know, because for years everybody's like, oh, Russia, they're so advanced, oh, nanotechnology, this and that. But in reality, you know, they're going to the poorest country in the world to ask them to help them make missiles. Like,
yeah,
what kind of missile? And here's another thing for you to ponder. Where did North Korea get their nuclear missiles? Where did they get most of their weapons? They got it from Russia. They got all those, whether it's all old Soviet technology. What are they going to give them? Like old Soviet era missiles that they can replicate? I mean, that's pretty much it. If anything, the only thing that North Korea can supply them with is old Soviet stock. That's about it.
Yeah.
I highly doubt, I don't know, I personally highly doubt they have anything new. You know, if you look at even China, all of the Soviet technology that they got, what do? They replicated it. Okay, so you have old Soviet technology. Congratulations. You know, and I just want to say this one thing, like, I don't think a lot of people realize of how much power the United States has over technology, over the massive monopoly over the rest of the world. If you want, Google Zeiss. It's a German company that builds, manufactures machinery that make microprocessors. Okay, and the United States government, they basically regulate to whom this technology could be sold to. And on top of that, with a touch of a button, that stuff is completely obsolete. There are even CNC machines that if they're moved at half an inch or even a millimeter, they automatically shut down, and they cannot start that machine until they contact a government agency telling them, hey, a forklift hit, the forklift hit the machine, that's why it stopped. Then they have to go send somebody out, investigate to make sure, you know, what's going on. And even if you try to hack the system, it'll burn down. Like, it'll self-destruct in the sense that the program will be burned. You know, think about it. You have a 35-axis machine that can create a part out of a single block of metal. You know, that's very advanced. You know, I'm pretty sure you can YouTube some really impressive technology. They have like powder. It's basically titanium powder CNC machine where it makes the part out of titanium powder, and it just basically, it's just mind-blowing technology. Like, people don't understand how far advanced. Like, oh, China makes stuff, great. For the dollar store, you know, like, give me a break. So a lot of these people, like, they hear all this hype, like, oh, China and Russia are joining forces. Oh, congratulations. This old Soviet technology with dollar store technology. What are you making?
Yeah.
Self-destructible teddy bears? Like, I'm just kind of, you know, really downplaying it, but still, like, people don't realize of how far ahead the Western world is. Like, if you just go, people, please go YouTube some videos of modern day advanced manufacturing techniques. You'll be mind blown. So anyway, oh, I'm gonna say one last thing before we end this, because we're already 30 minutes in. So Kherson, after the water dam broke, a lot of, even from my organization, a lot of people have been going down there with just trucks full of water, like big containers, like 200-gallon containers full of water, bringing water to Kherson, to the people that are living there, because they have all that water after that flood. They can't use the wells. They're all poisoned. They're all contaminated. So that's another really big thing. It's still going on to this day. There's a lot of people that are just coming down. It's just like, who's going to go? Like, the government is too busy fighting a war. A lot of people have left the country, and all you have is just these everyday regular people that they morally would not go out they would not join the front to kill somebody because they find it morally wrong. But what they do is they'll go down there in these hot zones, and they'll bring water, they'll bring supplies, do whatever they possibly can, because they don't want to be in the state of war. They don't want to be murdering, killing. I'm not saying murdering, because it's self-defense is not the same thing as murder. Murder is, you know, we all know what that is. But anyways, that's what these people do. That's what I'm doing. And honestly, it's one of the most rewarding things in your life. If you have the ability, if you're listening right now and you have the ability to go and help someone, you don't need to go to Ukraine. You don't need to go to Africa. You don't need to go to any country. Even people that you see in need in your own community, you don't need to make a big scene about it. Just go over there and be like, hey, listen, you know, like, maybe you need something, you know, I thought I could help you. That's one of the most beautiful and most satisfying things that you'll ever be able to accomplish in your life. And it is a blessing. I'm telling you guys, it is a blessing and a half to be able to go out and help somebody else out. It's just one of the greatest things that you'll ever be able to experience in your life. I just want everybody listening to have a fantastic week. God bless you guys. Stay strong. And again, thanks a lot for having me on your podcast. I wish you only the very best, man.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. I like having this little series and talking about it consistently, because some people still do have questions. Some people forget about it. And that's the thing is, I call it flavor of the month. And I'm sure you've heard me say it before, where, 1 month, we're talking about UFOs. The next month we're talking about vaccines. 1 month we're talking about train derailments. Now we're talking about weather balloons in China and all this. And then, so it's like whatever pops up, people forget. But stuff like this is important to kind of continue to, dangle the carrot in front of people to not forget about it, so they kind of still chase like what's actually going on, so people have a better understanding, and they don't just go to some social media account and because somebody said the color red is red, that they just believe everything, and it's really not red. It's it's blue.
I'm not sugarcoating anything.
No, yeah, that's why I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Like I said, there is corruption. I mean, and the thing is, and I strongly believe that eventually, after this war is over, a lot of people that will come back, they will realize, because they're in Europe right now, they see how laws work, and that's how things change. I mean, like go back 100 years, 150 years when America started. You got the Wild West. You got people shooting each other. You got this is the process. This is the maturity, the birth of a new nation. Right?
History repeats itself, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But we'll I know I'm going to be going out of town here. I'm not sure when exactly you're leaving, but we may be able to get like one more in before I leave. It just depends.
Yeah.
But we'll figure it out, man.
Problem.
But I appreciate you coming on. Everybody listening, don't forget to go over to YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe, like, comment below, turn on your notifications. Put down the comments if you want to, hear us talk about a certain subject, over within Ukraine, Russia, or maybe something different, what you like or don't like about it. And again, as always, I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you at the next one.